Isaiah Thomas was one of the fiercest competitors in NBA history, known for his lightning speed and clutch performances, and he even inspired a fan so much that a boy was named after him, thanks to a lost bet during the 1989 NBA Finals. But behind that legendary skill, Thomas held grudges against certain players that lasted decades. And wait until you see number 5. You won't believe how far their rivalry went. Number 1. Michael Jordan. Isaiah Thomas has never hidden the fact that he and Michael Jordan did not get along. In recent comments, Thomas reignited the feud, calling Jordan an a-hole over his portrayal in the ESPN documentary The Last Dance. Thomas told Greece's Cosmo TV that while he was watching the documentary with his family, he was fine, until Jordan appeared on screen criticizing him. Until I get a public apology, this beef is gonna go on for a long, long time, because I'm from the west side of Chicago, Thomas said. The rivalry between Jordan's Chicago Bulls and Thomas's Detroit Pistons stretches back to the late 1980s. And even decades later, the tension has never fully disappeared. Thomas's issues with Jordan are rooted not only in the 1991 Eastern Conference Finals, but also in years of earlier interactions that set the tone for their long-standing animosity. The feud partly began with the 1985 All-Star Game. Jordan was a rookie, starting in the East lineup, but Thomas and some veteran players allegedly conspired to make him look bad. Jordan has recounted that he met Thomas in an elevator at the game and simply said, "Hello, how you doing?" Jordan says that Thomas initiated the tension from that very first meeting. And afterward, Jordan heard reports that he had been arrogant and gave Thomas the cold shoulder. This event later became known as the freeze-out game. During the game, Thomas, Magic Johnson, and George Gervin limited Jordan's touches. And Jordan took only 9 shots in 22 minutes, making just 2. Despite the rookie's talent, the veteran's plan worked, and Jordan left the game frustrated but determined. After the All-Star break, the Bulls' first game was against Thomas's Pistons, fueled by the freeze-out game. Jordan exploded for 49 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists in overtime, defeating the Pistons 132-126. Jordan called it a grudge game and said he was serious the entire match. This performance marked the beginning of their on-court rivalry, which would only intensify in the years to come. The tension grew through the late 1980s as the Pistons, known as the Bad Boys, became Jordan's biggest obstacle. Detroit's style was physical, aggressive, relentless. Players like Bill Laimbeer, Rick Mahorn, and Dennis Rodman constantly harassed Jordan and the Bulls. Thomas, as the Pistons' leader, orchestrated much of the resistance. The teams met in multiple Eastern Conference playoffs. Games were brutal, and the Pistons often used psychological tactics, like walking off the court without shaking hands after being swept in 1991. Jordan famously was enraged by this snub, and it added fuel to the personal fire he carried for Thomas. Their feud was also territorial. Thomas was a Chicago native, a local hero. And then Jordan came in and quickly became the city's favorite. Former Bulls player Brad Sellers described it as jealousy and territory, saying that Thomas had worked to represent Chicago, and then Jordan arrived and took over the spotlight. Thomas himself admitted he felt conflicted when even his own family cheered for Jordan at Chicago games. That personal sting lingered throughout their careers. Jordan rules, a defensive strategy designed by the Pistons to contain Jordan, became famous during this period. Thomas was central to those plans, always pushing, provoking, challenging Jordan on every play. The rivalry reached its peak in 1990 and 1991, with games filled with shoves, punches, and strategic brutality. In 1991, after the Bulls finally defeated the Pistons, Thomas and his teammates walked off the court in protest, leaving Jordan standing arms crossed observing the spectacle. Even decades later, Thomas has openly criticized Jordan's portrayal of him, insisting the walk-off and the rivalry were about respect, Chicago pride, and the basketball culture of the time. Number 2. Magic Johnson. Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson were once considered close friends in the NBA, but their relationship became one of the most talked about rivalries in basketball history. In the late 1980s, the rivalry between the Detroit Pistons and Los Angeles Lakers was intense. Isaiah Thomas, captain of the Pistons, and Magic Johnson, leader of the Lakers, faced off in several crucial finals matchups. The physical and competitive nature of the game strained their friendship. During the 1988 finals, tensions escalated when Magic, defending the Lakers, sent Thomas sprawling to the floor on a controversial play. Thomas got up and shoved Magic back, creating a moment remembered for both its physicality and emotional intensity. Their interactions on the court started to reflect off-court tension. In 1991, after Magic Johnson announced he was HIV positive, their relationship took another turn. Magic revealed in his book, When the Game Was Ours, co-written with Larry Bird and Jackie MacMullan, that he learned from his agent, Lou Rosen, that Isaiah was questioning his sexuality and spreading rumors about him. Magic explained that this was deeply hurtful because he trusted Isaiah as a friend, someone he could rely on in difficult times. He even had a room in his mansion he called the Isaiah Room, and would leave his car for him when the Pistons visited. Despite this, rumors circulated that Thomas was asking about Magic's personal life, which left Magic feeling betrayed and isolated, especially at a time when other players avoided him due to the fear of HIV. Isaiah Thomas strongly denied these allegations. He said he never spread rumors and explained that he had personal experience with HIV because his brother Gregory had died from the disease. He argued that he supported Magic, helped him play in the 1992 All-Star Game, and publicly demonstrated that he was not afraid of Johnson's condition. Thomas also denied that he influenced Magic's absence from the 1992 Olympic Dream Team, although Magic admitted in the book that he had personally played a role in keeping Thomas off the team. Thomas maintained that the real reasons for his exclusion involved conflicts with Michael Jordan and other team members, and that Magic's statements were misinformed. The feud was complicated by their shared history. Thomas remembered how Magic never visited him when his son was born during the 1988 finals. He also recalled trying to get treatment for a severe ankle sprain during Game 6 of that same series, only to be turned away by the Lakers' facilities. The tension built over years of competitive play, personal misunderstandings, and league politics. Despite all of this, Thomas acknowledged the respect he and Magic once shared, recalling their iconic cheek kisses before games and mutual admiration during the heat of competition. Years later, in a tearful reunion on the NBA TV special in December 2017, the two finally confronted their history. Magic apologized to Isaiah, saying, "You are my brother." Both men's eyes filled with tears. Thomas admitted he broke down hearing the apology, because all of the pain and distance that had grown between them. The moment was raw, emotional, marking the end of decades of silence and unresolved tension. Number 3. Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen grew up admiring Isaiah Thomas. In college, Pippen watched Thomas lead the Detroit Pistons and thought he was incredible. "I was a big fan of his when I was in college," Pippen said. He compared Thomas to Mo Cheeks, noting how easily he could drive to the basket and control the game. At that time, Thomas was dominating the NBA, earning all NBA first-team honors from 1984 to 1986, and second-team selections in 1983 and 1987. He was seen as one of the top point guards, just behind Magic Johnson, and the Pistons were emerging as a serious team. Everything changed once Pippen reached the NBA and faced Thomas in person. Defeated by the Chicago Bulls in 1987, Pippen saw firsthand what it meant to play against the Bad Boys. Detroit knocked Chicago out of the 1988 playoffs 4-1, and Pippen noticed a side of Thomas he hadn't seen on TV. "Once I saw him up close, I discovered what a dirty player he was, with a knack for making the most inappropriate comments," Pippen recalled. He remembered Thomas's comments about Larry Bird after the 1987 Eastern Conference Finals, suggesting that if Bird were black, he would be just another good guy. That shocked Pippen and left a bad impression. Pippen's respect for Thomas faded over time. In 1991, after the Pistons were swept by the Bulls in the Eastern Conference Finals, Thomas and his team walked off the court without shaking hands. "No respect," Pippen said years later. Nothing. That was precisely the type of juvenile behavior we had come to expect from a group led by Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer. The physical, aggressive style that had once impressed Pippen turned into frustration and bitterness, leaving a permanent mark on his view of Thomas. The rivalry deepened because of the 1992 Dream Team. Thomas believed he was snubbed, and Pippen admitted later that it wasn't about any one person, but about team chemistry and relationships. On the PBD podcast, Pippen explained, "Basketball is a game built on relationships, and that team was put together based on relationships. Players that they felt could get along, players that they felt could play together, and players that they felt could contribute in the right way to win a gold medal." He also noted that Dominique Wilkins, another great player, was left off. And while he felt bad, he wasn't willing to give up his own spot. Even decades later, Pippen's criticism of Thomas remained. During the 2020 All-Star Weekend on First Take, the discussion about Detroit versus Chicago resurfaced. Thomas claimed Detroit was better, referencing a 16-19 playoff record in favor of Chicago. But Pippen responded, pointing out that the Bulls were younger and less experienced in those early matchups. "We were younger, we weren't physically mature enough to compete. But once we matured, it was over," Pippen said. The Bulls finally swept the Pistons in 1991, ending Detroit's reign in the East, and confirming that the Pistons were defeated, not old. Other players like Charles Oakley shared similar views. Oakley said Thomas was a great point guard and deserved the Dream Team, but he could never fully trust him. Pippen echoed his sentiment. "I grew up that if I don't have nothing good to say, I don't say nothing. Nothing good is going to come out of you asking that. I don't respect him, so I don't have anything good to say about this guy." Pippen also criticized Thomas for being ungrateful to Michael Jordan. In 2018, he reacted to Thomas saying he would pick LeBron over Jordan. "I've never seen this guy embrace or thank Michael Jordan for what he did for our game, done for our league, done for all our kids out here in terms of basketball," Pippen said. The Bulls' dominance, Jordan's rise, and the harsh encounters with Detroit left Pippen convinced that Thomas's attitude off the court was just as questionable as his play on it. Even years later, their rivalry never healed. Pippen confirmed in 2020 that Thomas had reached out to B.J. Armstrong seeking a truce. But Pippen refused, stating there was never a relationship to repair. Number 4. Larry Bird. Isaiah Thomas and Larry Bird first clashed in the mid-1980s during the Eastern Conference playoffs. In 1985, the Pistons were still a young team trying to make their mark, and Bird's Celtics easily beat them in the semifinals. The following year, it happened again, this time in the conference finals. By 1987, Detroit had developed into a serious contender, and the series went a full 7 games. In Game 5, Thomas made a critical mistake on an inbound pass, which Bird intercepted and fed Dennis Johnson for the winning layup. In Game 7, Thomas struggled, shooting just 10 for 28, while Bird delivered 37 points, 9 rebounds, and 9 assists, cementing Boston's win and reinforcing the rivalry. After that series, controversy erupted off the court. Dennis Rodman, a Pistons rookie, had called Bird overrated and suggested his MVP award were due to being white. Thomas, frustrated and caught up in the moment, repeated the remark jokingly, saying that if Bird were black, he would just be another good guy. The comment was taken seriously by the media, and Thomas faced intense backlash. "I lost a game, was accused of being a racist, and I'm a bad guy now," Thomas admitted, reflecting on how the situation spiraled out of control. Despite criticism, Bird himself was largely unaffected. He understood that Thomas was joking, and that it was a response to Rodman's initial comment. Bird said, "The main thing is that if the statement doesn't bother me, it shouldn't bother anybody else." He also noted that the timing, right after a grueling Game 7, wasn't ideal. "After a game like that in the heat of the locker room, it's probably not the best time to talk to us," Bird explained, showing a level of understanding and perspective Thomas didn't get from the media. Even during games, Bird's confidence and trash talk put pressure on Thomas and the Pistons. John Sally recalled a moment when Bird was left wide open at the three-point line. Thomas was caught off guard and Bird called out, "Hey, hey, hey, who's guarding me?" Then drained the shot. Bird's mind games forced Thomas and his team to react instinctively, sometimes causing defensive mistakes that disrupted their usual game plan. Over time, Thomas acknowledged the intensity Bird brought to the court. He credited Bird with making him better as a player, saying that the fear and pressure he felt during those matchups forced him to improve. Thomas also made amends with Rodman and explained his side publicly, noting that Rodman's initial comments had started the issue. Bird confirmed that Thomas had been caught up in frustration and clarified that he didn't hold any lasting grudge against him. Number 5. Charles Oakley. Isaiah Thomas and Charles Oakley never got along, and their rivalry stretched across decades. Oakley has been very clear about why he disliked Thomas, tracing it back to their playing days in the late 1980s and early 1990s. When Oakley's Knicks faced Thomas' Detroit Pistons, Oakley said Thomas always rubbed people the wrong way, and it wasn't just his physical play. That's what he plays. He plays both sides. He was doing a lot of stuff around the league, and there's a couple of things like in New York, he had the salt case. He just did stuff and thought he could get away with it, because some guys can get away with stuff, and every time he did something, he got caught. But he tried to show that he's a smart guy. But sometimes when a guy is too smart, he tries to do bad things too. And that's him, Oakley explained. Oakley called Thomas a sore loser, pointing out incidents where Thomas's behavior went beyond normal competitive fire. He brought up the time Thomas punched his teammate Bill Laimbeer in practice back in 1993. According to Oakley, the fact that Thomas would hit someone so crucial to his team showed how ungrateful and controlling he could be. Oakley said, "He do a lot of sneaky stuff. Mike owes him an apology," he said, "but for what? You wouldn't even shake his hand when they beat y'all. Y'all was beating on them and they were taking it. He's a sore loser, and now they beat them and he tried to sneak past Laimbeer." Oakley painted a picture of Thomas as someone who wanted people afraid of him, a man who needed to prove dominance constantly, both on and off the court. Even years after their careers ended, the tension continued. Oakley recounted a confrontation at an Atlanta airport about 2 years ago. He said Thomas followed him up an escalator asking, "You got something to say to me? Say it to me." Oakley believed Thomas was trying to provoke a fight or create a public spectacle, possibly because Oakley had an ongoing legal case and Thomas was reportedly connected with the Knicks. Dozens of people witnessed the exchange, some even recorded it, but Oakley avoided responding physically. "I saw the police was over there. I mean, about 40-50 people seeing this incident. I don't know when they're gonna let it out. So he kept trying to follow me. I'm like, what the F is you doing?" Oakley said. That episode showed how deep and personal their feud remained, decades after both players retired. Oakley also blamed Thomas for encouraging the Pistons' aggressive bad boy style. He said Thomas set the tone for his team to play violently and intimidate opponents, which made him unpopular in other locker rooms. Off the court, Oakley said Thomas could be just as harsh. Basically, it started when they was playing the ball game, the Pistons and the Bulls, how they treated people like I mean, everybody is going to foul hard, to do this and that, but just like what he did to Laimbeer, he had all his teammates scared to do something out of the ordinary, because don't let me see you like Mike. I'm gonna do something to you, this and that. I'm going to get you traded, Oakley explained. The feud extended to the 1992 Olympic Dream Team. Many thought Thomas blamed Michael Jordan for not including him, but Oakley clarified that Chuck Daly, the coach, likely made the decision. Basically, when you have a dream team, Olympic team, something like that, whoever coaches gets a chance to bring one of his players. If Chuck Daly wanted Isaiah on there, he probably would have been on there. I don't think he liked Isaiah like that, Oakley said. Oakley dismissed Thomas's complaints about Jordan, calling it absolutely crazy for Thomas to continue blaming him for the omission. Oakley also reminded listeners that Thomas never shook Jordan's hand after the Bulls beat the Pistons, reinforcing his reputation as a sore loser. Even more recently, Oakley went on the All the Smoke podcast and directly addressed Thomas's complaints about Jordan. "Mike does not want to be your friend, Isaiah. I'm telling you for the 5th time. He does not want to be your friend. Stay on ESPN, keep talking on TNT. Now you're trying to say everybody better than Mike. It's okay, you're not better than Mike. He came in your city and took your city. That's why you really mad. He took over Chicago," Oakley said. Oakley's open disdain for Thomas only added fuel to the fire, and Thomas, aware of Oakley's persistent hate, had long put Oakley in his own bad book, keeping a wary distance and never fully trusting him. Number 6. Robert Parrish. The rivalry between Isaiah Thomas and Robert Parrish was built during the intense 1987 Eastern Conference Finals between the Detroit Pistons and the Boston Celtics. Parrish believed Thomas was at the center of most of the on-court chaos, saying that Zeke instigated situations that led other teams to get physical with Detroit. In Game 5, Parrish delivered a series of punishing elbows that knocked down Bill Laimbeer, a move he claimed was partially influenced by Thomas stirring up tension. Parrish insisted Thomas started a lot of the controversy and aggressive energy that opponents directed at the Pistons. Thomas saw it differently. He explained that due to his smaller 6'1" frame, he often became the target when driving to the basket, and opposing players vented their frustration on him. He admitted he took more punishment than anyone else at the time. When asked why Pistons teammates did not help Laimbeer after Parrish's blow, Thomas joked that it wasn't dislike for Laimbeer, but fear of Parrish, nicknamed the Chief. Parrish earned the name for his quiet but intimidating presence, modeled after Chief Bromden from One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Even Thomas admitted that facing Parrish required caution, as the Celtics' big man's stoic demeanor and timing made him a force on the floor. And nobody on the Pistons wanted to get caught in his path. Want to find out who else made Isaiah's most hated list and the shocking reasons behind each feud? Drop a comment, hit like, and stay tuned for more untold stories from the NBA battlefield.